You're listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, where you get valuable information you just can't find anywhere else. To thrive in today's trying times, you need the Financial Survival Network, now more than ever. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and get your free newsletter and gift. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz. It's 8/12/21. Well, if you're one of the millions of Americans, the most three dreaded letters in the English language. It's not FBI. It's not CIA. It's IRS. And just those three letters are, if you're like me, enough to strike fear and terror into your heart. And, it is scary. They do have extraordinary powers to get the government paid, no question about it. However, you as a citizen of the United States have certain remedies and rights when you're dealing with them, as well as any other government agency. Even in this day of extraordinary government power, there still are things you can do about it. Hopefully not many of you out there have had issues with them, but you never know when you're going to have one in the future. You could be doing everything right on your taxes, or think you are, but you missed some rule that got passed that applied to you, but you just didn't know about it. So the key here is, what do you do when they've got your back against the wall? Right now, Ben Golden is with us, and his firm is a CPA. He's CEO of Golden Tax Relief, which helps individuals and businesses with IRS enforcement actions against them, whether it's garnishments, delinquencies, bankruptcy, etc. And Ben, I've been looking forward to this interview for a while. I've, thank goodness have not had to deal with the IRS along these lines, but I know many people who have. And really, the greatest thing going against you is really ignorance. Because if you're not an expert in this, you don't know what you can do and what you can't do. So am I right about that? Do you find that most people get into trouble because they just don't really understand the whole process?
That's exactly true. First, I'd like to say thank you for having me on today. I really appreciate it. And you're absolutely right. Ignorance is definitely not bliss when it comes to the IRS. A lot of the problems people find themselves, they're great people. They're really good people that find themselves in a difficult situation through normally no fault of their own. And they don't know how to deal with the IRS. They don't even know that there is an IRS taxpayer bill of rights. They don't even know that they do have rights in dealing with the IRS. So, getting people educated and informed is very important.
Right, for sure. And then when you do get into the situation, you have to know, like, I would never deal with them on any matter that I'm involved in, other than if they say, we didn't get your return, I send them the return with the receipt showing that I sent it. Or if they say you owe us a few $100s, you were off on your return. All right, I just send them the check because it's just not worth arguing over normally. But if it's something that catches my eye, then you got to wait. So, but otherwise, you should never deal with them directly on any major matter, should you?
That's exactly right, Kerry. A lot of people think that they can handle it themselves, or they think that it's okay if they just use common sense and talk to the IRS. Well, unfortunately, tax law, regulation, and rule has nothing to do with common sense, as you already know. So just trying to talk some common sense into an IRS agent, is definitely not a good idea. It's sort of like, if you get in trouble, would you go to court and talk to a judge without an attorney? And the answer is absolutely not. Same thought. You don't really want to deal with the IRS alone.
I remember I had a friend, and she had an accountant, not real knowledgeable with dealing with the IRS, which not all of them are. A lot of things are perfunctory that accountants handle. They don't really have to get into the meat of it, but she actually had a home-based business, and she had an IRS agent doing an audit in her house. while she's carrying on business. And the first thing I learned is, hey, if the IRS comes knocking, yeah, they might want to look at your place of business just to make sure it really exists, that it's not some money laundering operation. And then never, ever have them do an audit in your office. And you have them do it in your accountant's office. And then your accountant can answer the questions. But it's amazing to me that anybody would ever let an audit take place on their premises.
That's right. I don't understand when clients will just let the IRS have free reign and do whatever it is they want to do. The IRS is limited to what they can do. So, you need to sort of keep them limited. You don't want them to come in and look at everything that you have and say, oh, well, was this item on your tax return? Well, did you include this item? You want to show them the least amount possible. I would definitely tell you, I remember I had a client, they were in an automotive shop, and I asked him, I said, do you have signs outside your building that says insurance does not allow non-employees past this point? And he said, no. I said, well, put that up right away. That shows a restriction for people, including the IRS, to come into that area. And if you have a restricted area that people cannot go into, including the IRS, then they can't wander around and attempt to try to find something in order to, bring more of a cause against you as a taxpayer. So you want to make sure that you limit the IRS's ability in multiple situations,
Yeah. And look, like in the training manual and in the IRS training, it says when you're on the premises of a taxpayer, things to watch out for to trip them up and collect more revenue. Their purpose is to see that you've complied and to try to get as much revenue for the government as they possibly can. And that's not in your interest necessarily. So what was the worst situation you ever dealt with since you've been doing this, Ben?
I got a client several years ago that they called me up and we got engaged. And I told them on the phone, just like I tell every single client, if the IRS ever calls you or they come by your house, do not talk to them. Tell them that you have representation and that you want them to talk to me. No one else. Do not give them any information. Matter of fact, give them, put them in the lobby and go get a drink of water and not come back until I get on the phone with them. Literally, you can do that. So the IRS shows up at the client's business, and the client, of course, lets them in and they start talking to them. And come to find out, they call me an hour after the IRS has already been at their business talking to the client. And I specifically told the client, do not talk to them. Come to find out, the IRS had been investigating them for about 3 years. They had warrants for their business and their home. They had special agents from criminal division that showed up. And there is absolutely no telling what the client told that IRS special officer before I got on the phone with them. Because when I got on the phone with them, I said, hey, listen, do not continue the conversation with my client. They're not going to have any other additional information for you. Please do what you need to do with your warrants and don't talk to my client again. At that point, it was too late, Kerry?
Yeah, the toothpaste was out of the tube. That's a shame to hear. Well, so I remember one time I had to go file something at the IRS. I didn't want to mail it because it was late as it was. And I get in there. This is in New York City. And there's a guy that comes out and he's not an IRS agent. He's a revenue agent. And when you got the revenue agents, this is serious. And he's yelling at this guy who happened to be the accountant for Scores, a so-called gentleman's club, and saying, I know what you do. And if you don't comply with me, I'm going to audit every single dancer you've had there for the past. He's saying this out loud in the lobby of the place. And I'm like aghast, but it was really fascinating. And then a number of years later, there was a big bust at that gentleman's club. and all these tips that had never been recorded, everything else, they went like, and he goes, I know who owns these places. I know the people that own them. He's saying like really things that no agent should be saying out in the public and excoriating this guy. And then like 3 years later, the whole tax scheme came crumbling down. But it made me realize like, don't talk to these people, keep them at arm's length. Only speak to them when, tell them where the coffee maker is and where the bathroom is. Don't tell them anything else.
Right. And the other thing is when the IRS does start talking to somebody, a lot of people think that the more they talk, the better off they are. And they just continue to talk and talk and talk and talk. And they don't limit what they say. They don't think about what they say. And they just think that they're, again, from a common sense standpoint, they're going to get out of it by being this person's friend. They're not your friend. They're there to do a job. They're there to advocate for the United States government and collect as much as they possibly can from you to see if you're doing everything right, above board, and not fraudulent. So, the IRS is trained on how to talk to people, how to read people, how to listen to people, and they use sort of the verbiage between the lines to see, is this person truthful or not? Can I believe this person? Or what's the next step in trying to further the government's case for this client,
Exactly. So obviously, in this time of major health concerns, we'll skip using the names so our digital overlords don't get into a tizzy. What are some specific things that you've seen in the latest from the pandemic, results-wise, with tax issues?
Don't just survive, thrive. The Financial Survival Network.
Osino Resources is a Ross Beatty-backed gold exploration company in mining-friendly Namibia. Osino's district-scale land package is situated near 2 producing gold mines, one of which Osino's management team previously developed and sold to B2 Gold. Osino's founders and management are experienced mining professionals who have already successfully developed and sold 2 companies in the past 7 years. Osino has a tight share structure, and with its current treasury, it can self-fund the advancement of its gold discovery into at least 2022. This is an exploration company with drills turning that you'll definitely want to pay attention to. Osino trades in New York under the ticker OSIIF and in Toronto under the ticker OSI. To learn more, go to osinoresources.com. That's osinoresources.com.
This is the Financial Survival Network, the information you need to thrive now more than ever.
Everything is just taking so much longer than what it normally has in the past. There are certain units in the IRS that are 12, 18 months behind as we speak. So, and it's only getting worse. I heard that the IRS had a lot of people laid off that did not come back from the event. They had a lot of people that got sick and did not want to come back. They had a lot of people that retired. So, the IRS is really reeling from a lack of personnel. A lot of people don't understand this. In 2010, the IRS had over 110,000 employees. As of right now, they have about 73,000. The IRS has had budget reductions for the past decade plus. And they've had reduction of labor. The taxpayer advocate said that less than 24% of all calls that go into the IRS are even answered, much less answered properly. Hold times are at their highest. People are very frustrated. And the IRS has held off on liens and levies and aggressive collection until soon. Prior administration essentially said, IRS, we don't want you to collect aggressively until people start recovering. After the third stimulus that came out, the current administration said the same exact thing. We don't want you to aggressively go forward and collect from individuals. Until that was lifted and the IRS sent memorandum out on 6/15 that essentially said, On 7/15, we'll start collection activity. On 8/15, we'll start the lien program and the levy program again. On 7/15, they had 5 million collection notices go out that were certified. And I have an expectation that within the next week, the IRS is going to get very aggressive with individuals that owe them money.
Well, on the bright side, it's good for the post office because they're going bust. So they're almost bankrupt. Their health and benefit plans are totally gone. It's
so what you're saying is you get one dilapidated government entity to fund the secondary governmental entity that is also bankrupt, right?
Yeah.
Welcome. We need more government. But that's a story for another day.
Yeah, another day. Well, we could get into minimal government and all that, but hey, let's just as far as the lien process goes and all that. So they're going to be starting all that again. They're so far behind. Is that good for the taxpayer? Is that bad for the taxpayer? And all these labor force reductions, that's a net positive, isn't it?
No, absolutely not. The reason is because now the IRS is going to get more aggressive and send out more liens and levies. And you as a taxpayer or myself as a representative, we attempt to call the IRS to get it straightened out, and we can't even get in touch with them. If we send them a letter, I mean, they've still got millions of pieces of mail that's still unopened from last year. They have over 4 million unprocessed, electronically filed returns. I mean, the IRS is in trouble right now because they can't do the work that they've been asked to do. And now they're asked to do more work with less people. And you see, when the IRS, because of the issues that have happened in the past with the pandemic, the IRS had most of their employees go off-site and remote. Well, that sounds easy, and that sounds like a great solution. However, what you don't think of is there are so many firewalls and so many security items put in place that it became difficult for revenue officers and revenue agents, people from the IRS, to work remotely and get into their computer system and get good information to help people and help clients and move forward with their cases. So, I mean, the problems have just sort of been exacerbated all along the time frame over the past 18 months. And honestly, Kerry, I don't see it getting better before it gets worse.
Yeah, well, it can always get worse. We've learned that just when you thought it couldn't get any worse. So are you advocating hiring more IRS agents and increasing staff?
If it means that the IRS will absolutely answer more phone calls and help people and help taxpayers, absolutely, yes. For example, the penalty abatement division and unit inside the IRS is, like I said, they're 18 months behind. 18 months. That means, okay, I dealt with a gentleman. The IRS gave him a penalty of $20,000 because they said that he did not file his tax return on time. We have the documents that prove that he filed it on time electronically. It took us 13 months for the IRS to respond and abate those penalties. All in the time the client had to pay the IRS so they wouldn't levy his accounts. So yeah, he got that money back, but he ultimately had to pay the IRS for over a year just to prove that those penalties were not even his.
Yeah. A similar thing happened to me, although I didn't get hit with that kind of penalty. They never got my electronic return. I actually dropped them off a paper return that has never seen, it never got onto my tax transcript. One good thing is computerization. You can actually take a look at your own tax transcript and actually see what they've done. I mean, I dropped off a return to them at their office back in early April for various reasons. And I have it stamped. I have the stamped return, it says, received, but not processed, but they got it. That's proof positive. And, I was waiting months and months. So I sent it to them again and hope for the best, I guess.
Is it still on your transcript yet?
Nope, not there yet.
See, that's a perfect example right there. of the fact that the IRS, they honestly, as much as people don't want to hear it, they need more employees, because a lot of the employees that the IRS has, they are not auditors, they're not revenue officers, they're not collection agents, they're people that do the day-to-day entry, the day-to-day stuff, inside the service center. They're the ones that get the mail, open the mail and right. Scan everything in. So they definitely need people to answer the phones and be able to answer questions. The advocate right now is so far behind in helping people.
Yeah. Well, one thing I learned a long time ago with any business, any place else, anything really, if you send them a letter and you send them a check or whatever size, then they've got to process the letter in order to cash the check. So I sent them some money, and we'll see if that works.
Exactly.
Not a lot.
And that's a good way to track and trace to make sure that it was open. But there are techniques that we use on how to get multiple things sent at one time and everything get opened as well. So, yeah. It's really a bad time in the world to be an IRS agent, because you have so many cases. The caseload never stops. It's unending. And then you've got requirements from your managers that you have to have things done by a certain date. And honestly, to tell you the truth, Kerry, you also have knucklehead taxpayers that they don't respond. Did you know that 67% of all audits go unresponded to because the mail isn't open? I mean, that's a huge number. 93% of all audits have a change, but included in that 93%, 67% don't even open the mail.
Mm-hmm. 67%, huh? Yeah. Yeah, well, bad news travels fast. Well, so I guess you can help people in a variety of ways. Ben, why don't you tell us how we can connect with you on the web, and if you're having an issue with the IRS?
Yeah, definitely. You can always send me an email, ben@irstroublesolvers.com, or you could check us out on our website, www.irstroublesolvers.com.
All right. And there's a link to that in the show notes on Financial Survival Network. If you got a question for Ben, you can always send it to us. Email is kl@kerrylutz.com. We'll make sure it gets to him, get you an answer, unlike a certain government agency who you might wait 18 months for. And just send it to kl@kerrylutz.com, like I said. And make sure you sign up for your free newsletter. Ben, been an absolute pleasure. Keep up the fight. Hopefully, when I see give the IRS more money, it rankles me. But if they're breaking down and can't handle their basic functions, then we have one of two choices. We either fix it or we got to replace it. And the whole tax system, maybe this will be the impetus to totally reform it and make some sense of it, at least for a while. I don't know the answer, but we really appreciate your coming on and telling us, explaining these issues and why it's actually a good thing if the IRS gets more money and more staffing.
Thank you for having me today.
Thanks for listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, your solution to today's trying times. For the latest, go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.